something here out of my Bible. Some of you might say, oh, gee, are we going to get religious here? Well, I am a religious individual, so you're just going to have to bear with me, okay? I want to read this. This is in Deuteronomy 8:18. And you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers, and it is as it is this day. Then it shall be, if you by any means forget the Lord your God and follow other gods and serve them and worship them, I testify against you this day that you shall surely perish. Now, you know something? I'm just going to say this real quick about our founding fathers. They believed this. And that's why our founding fathers came to this continent, so they would have religious freedom and be able to worship God in the purest way. Okay? We are right now worshiping false gods in this country. We have forgotten God. He gave us great wealth in this country, didn't he? But it's all gone from us now. And now that's going to lead us into the Federal Reserve. I want to bring up a book here. I don't know how many of you have read this book. This is The Revolution, a manifesto by Ron Paul. And have you guys in here read? Any of you in here read this?
I read part of it.
You heard about it at least. Well, Ron Paul, he has some chapters in here, and one of them, guess what? He actually has a chapter in here about national health care. Now, he wrote this book way before the whole new debate about national health care. I love it. But he has some information in here about the Federal Reserve. Now, first off, let's talk about the Federal Reserve, okay? Why don't you, if any one of you want to jump in here and tell us what happened in 1913? Somebody who just want to jump in and go ahead, Russell.
I'll be more than happy to.
Go ahead.
In 1913, they passed the Federal Reserve Act, and they did it on Christmas Eve.
Right.
Without a quorum. And this was basically a sneak parcel, if you will, on the American people. They did it on the date. They meant to do it because they didn't want a full Congress, and they passed the Federal Reserve Act, which basically gave control of our monetary policy over to private central banks. And the difference is now the American people no longer control their currency.
Right.
And it circumvented the Constitution completely.
Now, in the Constitution, what does it say in there?
It said that the Congress controls the money, controls the coining and the regulation thereof.
That's right.
And it changed on that date. Now, the Treasury still coins the money, but they do it at the behest of the Federal Reserve System.
Right.
And they've been able to fool the American people into thinking that the Federal Reserve was actually a part of the federal government when it indeed was private central banks that control our currency and control our monetary policy. You said something very important before. You said that this whole process is scary because it was an awakening. Just take the Federal Reserve System itself and our fiat system. When I say fiat, that's make-believe. It's money, something created out of nothing. You take our fiat system and you see that the entire education that we got in school was a fraud.
Right, oh yeah.
Based on just the Federal Reserve System and how we've been able to amass false wealth in this country, false power through controlling the fiat currency of the world, the U.S. dollar. And that in itself, learning that is very, very scary for most people. And I think that's why you have resistance to this whole message.
Absolutely.
Because when they find out that everything they've learned is a fault, it's almost like the movie The Matrix. I liken it to the movie The Matrix. When Neo woke up and he found out that he really wasn't a human. He was living as a battery basically for machines in virtual reality, and he rejected it. And most people that found that out couldn't live anymore. They went into denial. Most Americans are afraid just of that point.
Right. Well, actually, one of the culprits in that movie, he went back to it, didn't he?
He did.
He said, "I know the mistake isn't real. I know, ignorance is bliss." Right. He didn't care. He'd rather live in complete servitude than he would live as a free man and face reality.
Yeah, I want to. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
I was going to read real quick,
okay.
and then you can go ahead and follow up on that, Richard.
Okay.
But I wanted to, of course, point our listeners to Article 1, Section 8 in the Constitution. It says, this is to the Congress, to coin money, regulate the value thereof in a foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. Okay? Doesn't say anything in there about and to delegate our monetary system to a private banking cartel of con men. Okay, and then not only that, but it also says in our Constitution that let's see here, Russell, say what you're gonna, or I mean, Rich, why don't you go ahead and interject here, and I'm gonna
Well,
find the other one I wanted to read here.
when he was talking about the Federal Reserve Act being passed on Christmas Eve, I did a little bit of research, and I actually found the voting record on that time. The House agreed to the Federal Reserve Act by a vote of 298 yeas to 60 nays, with 76 not voting. So there was a lot of the House that was on Christmas break. And then here's the interesting thing. If you hear people say that it would have never been approved and ratified, the Senate agreed to it by a vote of 43 yeas to 25 nays, with 27 not voting. Now, the bulk of those 27 were Republicans that were gone on break, and a lot of them were the biggest proponents to, if I'm saying that right,
That's right.
to the Federal Reserve Act. They were going to vote no. So that would have left it with 52 no's and 43 yays, and it would have been voted down and not approved. But since they were on break, on that Christmas break, they snuck it through.
Right.
And there was subterfuge, I believe, going on where they tried to convince the American people at the time by the bankers saying, this is a horrible act, we don't want it.
Right.
So usually, just like Glass-Steagall, when Glass-Steagall was overturned, the banks say, this is a horrible thing for the American people.
Mm-hmm.
It's a horrible thing. So they used reverse psychology, and I think
Yes.
at that time it passed. It was very unpopular at the time. Complete opposite today of what we're supposed to be like, especially when now you've got an auditing that might take place. Ron Paul's
Right.
HR 1207.
Exactly.
And Bernanke comes up and says, how dare the American people audit the Federal Reserve System? This compromises the entire
Right.
system that we're in today.
You mean the scam?
Saying private banks should
You mean the
control
scam,
our-
right?
That's right.
It's
a
going to
total
reveal them.
scam.
It's like the king has no clothes on.
But the problem with it is, it also says in the Constitution to where under that same, under the Federal Reserve Act, they're supposed to have transparency from time to time. So this HR 1207 should have the transparency there, but they don't want it because they don't want us to see it.
Absolutely. And I'm going to also read from Article 1, Section 10 in the Constitution. It says in here, no state shall enter into a treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. Okay? Pass any bill of attained or ex post facto law or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. Now, you know, that title of nobility right there, of course, we know what Rudy Giuliani just did not too long ago. He accepted something from the Queen of England, a title of nobility, I believe. But anyway, we're on the Federal Reserve here. So here we go. Again, in Section 10, it even says that nothing but gold and silver coin shall be used as a tender in payment of debts. But here we have fiat money. You mentioned fiat money, Russell, and most people, it's a legal term actually, fiat is. And you can go to your Black's Law Dictionary, or you can go online, probably Black's Law Dictionary online, and look up fiat, and you'll see that it's money created out of nothing. And I'm going to go into Ron Paul's book, and I'm going to read something here, because now, you know, I'm going to be reading a few things here, and then we'll talk about these, because Ron Paul did a great job on explaining. The title of his chapter is Money, the Forbidden Issue in American Politics. See, the politicians won't talk about this, what you just talked about. Our school system never told us beware of these wolves here. What they're doing to us, what they're decimating our ability to create wealth and our ability to live as free people. It's really our property, because our wealth is our property. Here's what Ron Paul says here. Throughout most of American history, the dollar has been defined as a specific weight in gold. In fact, I ask people this all the time, what's a dollar? And they pull out a Federal Reserve note and I say, no, that's not a dollar. You don't understand something. Now watch, this is the level that we've been brainwashed. A dollar is a unit of measure. It's like if I came up to you and I said, let me borrow a gallon, you would say, a gallon of what? What do you want, a gallon of water, milk, gasoline? I mean, what, you know, come on. You would laugh at me, a gallon of what? Well, that's the same thing we should be doing when someone says, can I borrow a dollar? You should say, a dollar of what? What do you want a dollar of? Gold, silver,